Hey guys, welcome to the part 3 of the NSEA protector build, and happy day after Christmas. Today I'm going to be showing you what I've done since the last video and give you an idea of where we're going to go after this. I'm also going to do a little bit of soldering and show you what the lights should look like in the wing. At least I can't show you what the lights are going to look like inside the main body, because right now it's still masked off. So let me switch cameras. So looks like it's going together, but actually these are just piled together here. So far I've glued I've glued the main body of the ship together, glued the spine piece on here. This needs a little bit more paint, needs some more touch-up paint here. It's just not to my liking yet. You can see there it's a little bit, you can see the gray coming through. Some of the windows will need to be re-drilled because the paint has filled them. But other than that, this is looking really good. I'm going to need to do some seam work up here, some seam work back here, and on the bottom here. Looking at it, it shouldn't be too much. I may not even have to putty it. Maybe just one of these things of sand it down, I'll sand it down, and then maybe the paint will fill it. We'll have to see what it does. The wiring is all stuffed down inside here. As the ship goes together, this will get filled in pretty well by the back of the wing. This here will be open to the front section of the wing, so all wires will eventually go in here and get stuffed down in here. Right now, the only thing I have left really to figure out is how I'm going to put electricity into the model. What I have done before is I've taken male and female Arduino plugs, which this is probably what I'm going to do, and I'll put, since this is the right side, the red wire will come in here, black wire will come in here. The female connectors will actually stick out and be glued to the bottom of the ship. I've done that before. It's very inobtrusive. You're not going to care about that near as much as you care about the wings and everything else, and that'll put power into the rest of the ship. It's just a technique I've done, especially since the stand is very non-conducive to trying to put any wiring whatsoever into it. I may, because it comes in here, if I do the wires, I may actually point them from the back here, forwards, which will be interesting to get into because this is sealed up, but bring it into here and then put the male plug onto it, and then run the wires from the male plug down here and color them a different, paint them black, mask this off so I don't take out the blue, paint them black to where they'll line up pretty well, and just put a plug off here. So that's the main part of the ship. The yacht portion of the ship is glued together. Looked at it, these photo etch pieces weren't going to be there anyway. One of them kept falling off. One of these fell off and has been lost. This gets painted dark gray anyway. That little detail isn't going to matter because this is going to be down on the ship. Going to drill through the top of the ship large enough to put these through, so that I've already looked, I'll be able to fish them down the bottom. That's not going to be a problem. So this is glued together and it's done. Still got a hot spot in it. Not much I can do about it. The windows are done. They're filled. So I'm pretty pleased with the way that's looking. This is what's left outside of that, and the two engine pieces here. These two bottom sections of the wing still got to do some painting in here and painting in here. My plan for today is to do a little bit more wiring here and then tie all these together temporarily over here so I can light everything and show you how everything's going to work there with the lights. And like I said, the wing here has a nice spot for wiring to come through. The back here is actually going to be pretty much fully closed up, and all the wiring and LEDs are now in here. I've got two in the back of each of the, for want of a better word, nacelles or engines. I've got 4 in each of we'll call them Bassard collectors, although I don't think they called them that in the movie. I started out with one in each. Didn't like the darkness that was going to end up in there, so I added a second of the 5 millimeters. Still wasn't happy. Put a 3 millimeter in the middle, and then another 3 millimeter in here. That's the best I'm going to be able to do right here and here. I cannot put anything because that's where the actual only bracing for this part is. And if you look, these pins have always been there. There were 2 pins that were up here that I've pulled out. These will be one of the last things I put on here. Still want to leave the grills, the brass on the grills. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to mask off the engine. You know, I'm going to mask off these bars across here, and then spray paint the top and sides of this, and then we'll go from there. Probably will have to mask off the back here as well so I don't get it on the back, but not near as important as the brass on the front. Once those are done, those will actually go in right before the build is completed. Oops, wrong part. On each of these, there is a part here that you can see where that's going to be painted the dark gray just like these are. And on the bottom of each of the wings, the same thing. This part here and will get painted a darker gray. Before I can do that though, I've got to finish the wing. I've got to paint some. You can see down in the right in the seam how the gray is still coming through, how the paint's chipped a little bit. I'll paint that. May or may not mask off back here. I shouldn't be spraying back here at the back half of the ship or back end of the ship. So these shouldn't need to be masked off. And then after that, it's just a few detail parts. So I'm going to pause for a minute here. I'm going to, because I've had people ask if, you know, for me to show how I do my wiring. What I do is right here, these 2 wires came out here. Well, actually, yeah, I already joined them here so that the green and the red come out of here and here. You can see that where I've already joined these 2 wires into a small harness, and they've got your negative and your positive separated. Same here, when it came up, I grabbed one of the 3 millimeter LEDs, red wire, green wire, or red and black, positive and negative. And I'll do the same thing, but the rest of these I should be able to do once the wing is completely together because all the wires should fit out. Right now, I do have, and this is what I'm going to go solder real quick. I've got the green wire and the red wire from this harness, same type of thing. Once I've got all of those once I've got these put together, I'll come back, see what I can do to get all the wires lit up, or all the lights lit up at the same time, just so you can see what it's going to look like when I put the wing on, and maybe one of the engine fronts on the front. So I will be back momentarily. Okay, and I'm back, and these wires are now freshly soldered. I have read on the HLI site and on Discord, some people were talking about how to bloom fiber optic. And I understand. I used to do it myself. Most people use a lighter or something like that to bloom fiber optic or to do their heat shrink. The problem I see with that is that your heat shrink can burn and actually catch on fire depending on what you're using. I, of course, believe in overkill. I was not using just a regular lighter. I was using a torch. And I still use the torch occasionally, but not for my heat shrink, not to bloom fiber optic. Instead, what I have is built into my solder station is a heat gun. And I highly recommend a heat gun because if you look at the way this heat shrink came out, it is not burnt at all. It is just beautifully shrunk. Just a thought, guys. So let me see if I can get all these wires on both sides together, and just looking looking at how these wires are right now, I'll show you what in just a second what I use that torch for. Because as I went through and twisted these wires at the end so that I could get them through to where they're at now, I cut them off. So I cut the area where the insulation had been removed off. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push these together on one side. I'm going to twist them. So I got my reds twisted here. I'm going to add this red here, which you can't really see it on the camera because the camera doesn't pick it up, but this red here is a little bit charred. And so when I wrap that together, what I do to make sure that I get all my insulation material off is that's what I use the torch for. Of course, it helps. The bad part is I have bad depth perception, and so I sometimes have to sit there and move it back and forth until I find it. So now let me grab these other three. And I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong in how they do it. It's just the way I do it, and to me, it's just a cleaner process with the heat shrink and with the and with fiber optic. When I try to bloom it, because I've never been really successful, to use a heat gun instead, because where the flame here I think is somewhere in the neighborhood of 450 degrees, I've got my heat gun set to 330, just hot enough to melt the rubber or the plastic of the heat shrink. So I'm going to grab some power. 9 volts. Unless I missed part of it when I hit the flame on it, everything should come on. And I've got one. Okay, it's because the way I did it, it's just not quite. The insulation's gone, but it's not quite making contact. And that's why we solder instead of twist our wires. So those are all lit up. We grab the right side of the engine, and I can see that they're lit up really bright. Dim it down a little bit here. So you can see the lighting back there, and this is actually, the lights just go out. No, just one of them went out. You can see the lighting back there, and at the point where you're actually going to be looking at it, and it's just wires aren't soldered. That's why it keeps going out. At the point you're actually going to be looking at it, it's going to actually not have really bad hot spots. And then on the front here, huge hot spot. Let me see, do I have the right one? I do. But this will then drop in there like that. And you can't see it, but I can. I've still got hot spots, but they're not as bad. I may do something, I may throw some cotton or something inside there. Let me see. If I turn down to power. Oops. So all the LEDs are in there. You still see the hot spots, but you can see a little bit the glow that I'm going for. You know, like I said, it's got hot spots. There's not much I can do about it. I may throw a piece of styrene back in front of the LEDs, but there's not a whole lot of room. They're right up at the front. May still dim them down. I'll figure something out. Right now I've turned them down to, let's see, so there's 4 volts. and it's still lighting pretty well, but not as well as I like back here. It's because I've got a lot of LEDs up here in the front that has got so many hot spots. Could I actually put more up here, but I'm not going to. I'll figure out something, maybe throw some cotton in there or tissue or something, so that try to dim this down and not have such bad hot spots. Not a whole lot of room to put the lights in. Just the fact that you can get lights in there at all, I'm kind of happy with. Thought about putting a LED strip in there, but again, same thing. Your lights end up right behind this piece of plastic, which makes it really difficult. Sorry about the glare, guys. Makes it really difficult because it's right behind this piece of plastic to not end up with the lights blasting out the front. We'll see what I can do. So that's about it for right now. Like I said, I'm going to finish, well, I'm going to glue the wings on the rest of the way on. This has actually got to come back off because the bottom part of the wing has to go underneath there. I'm going to get it glued on. I'm going to get these glued on. Once these are glued, this is glued on, and these have this head time set. I will combine these wires all into one harness, and hopefully by tomorrow everything will be ready to go complete, and I may go complete video tomorrow afternoon, maybe a couple of days later. So that's it for on the bench for right now. I'm also working some on the Voyager, not near as much because, like I said, I've found somebody posted a really good resource for how to make a good flasher board, for a basic flasher board for starships. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to actually run all my wires for the two different flashers. I'm going to have 3 wires that come out of the model. I'm going to have one for just regular lighting, for the LED strip, things like that. I'm going to have one for the slow flash and one for the fast flash LEDs. It's kind of ambitious for me. I've never done my own boards for something like that, you know, but since somebody put everything on the site, and they're right, it's for about 20 bucks, they said for 10 pounds, for about 20 bucks you get enough to do, you can get enough of the supplies to do a lot of the boards. I ended up paying about $50 through Amazon to get everything. I had some of the resistors already on hand, so it's going to be interesting. Stuff will be here Tuesday, and will probably do a build of me building that, or do a video of me building that the card, or maybe even a live stream on Tuesday. I may do something different on my Tuesday live stream. So that's it from here. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Stop by HLI, join the site. It's really a good bunch of guys. Matter of fact, we just did had the Secret Santa go through, where we all several of us sent presents back and forth, unknowing who we were getting them from. We're going to be all of us are going to be doing builds on that. I'm really happy with what I got. That'll end up being another video series on the channel. So hopefully, if I don't talk to you between now and the new year, have a great new year, and hopefully 2021 is better for you. I'm out here.